Welcome back to our channel. Rare pennies hiding in your change. Are you throwing away money? The year 1964 was one of great change and transformation. A time when the world was in the middle of the Cold War, and America was making bold strides in the space race, civil rights movements were gathering momentum, and the future seemed both uncertain and full of promise. But amid all these historical events, one small, seemingly insignificant object passed through the hands of millions of Americans, the humble 1-cent coin. At first glance, a 1-cent coin might seem like just another piece of everyday currency, too small to notice, too insignificant to care about. After all, it's only worth 1 cent, right? But as we dig deeper into the history and significance of the 1964 1-cent coin, we'll discover that it's far more than just pocket change. It's a coin that carries a rich history, a piece of Americana, and in some rare instances, can be worth a staggering $176,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, a 1-cent coin from 1964 that has transcended its face value and become a collector's dream, one of the most valuable and sought-after coins in the world today. But how does a coin worth only 1 cent become worth over $170,000? The answer lies in the fascinating world of numismatics and the rare phenomena that occur during the minting process. In fact, it's these rare mistakes that have helped elevate the 1964 1-cent coin to such an impressive value. Before we get into the fascinating world of error coins, let's start by talking about the 1964 1-cent coin's design and history. To understand its significance, we need to go back to the roots of the coin itself. The 1-cent coin, commonly known as the penny, has been an essential part of American currency since its first minting in 1793. But the design that we are most familiar with today, the one featured on the 1964 penny, was designed by the famed sculptor Victor David Brenner. The obverse of the 1964 penny features the iconic image of President Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Lincoln was chosen for this honor in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of his birth. Brenner's design was selected, and Lincoln's portrait became the first to appear on a U.S. coin, forever changing the face of American currency. On the reverse, the penny features the words E pluribus unum, out of many, one, surrounded by wheat stalks, which represented the agricultural roots of the United States and reflected the values of the time. The reverse design was the work of engraver John R. Sinnock, and it had been used on the penny from 1909 until 1958, when it was replaced with the Lincoln Memorial design. So in 1964, the penny had already gone through some changes, but the design with the wheat stalks remained part of American currency for decades. In 1964, however, the U.S. Mint was getting ready for another major shift. During this period, 1964 was a unique and pivotal year for American coinage. The country was facing a coin shortage, partly due to an increase in demand for change and a growing economy. Additionally, the United States was facing rising inflation, which led to changes in the composition of the coins themselves. By 1965, the U.S. Mint would stop using silver in the dimes and quarters, opting for a copper-nickel blend instead. But in 1964, the final year for the use of silver in the coinage, the penny remained predominantly made of copper, just like it had been since its inception. However, there was something else going on behind the scenes. The minting process was not always perfect. During the production of coins, some errors are inevitable. These errors, which occur when a coin is struck improperly or features a unique variation, are often rare but highly sought after by collectors. And it's in these rare mistakes where the true value of the 1964 1-cent coin can be found. One of the most valuable versions of the 1964 penny is a coin that features a minting error. Collectors are constantly on the lookout for such error coins, as they are often worth far more than their face value. The errors can range from simple misprints to more complex issues like double strikes or off-center strikes. These errors are highly collectible because they're unique, and the imperfections make them rare. Rarity is the key to value in the world of numismatics. So, what kinds of errors are we talking about here? One of the most notable types of errors found in the 1964 penny is the double die error. This occurs when a coin is struck by the die multiple times, resulting in a doubling effect on the design elements. For example, you might find that the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" are doubled on the coin, creating an additional level of detail that isn't present in standard coins. These kinds of errors are highly prized by collectors because they represent an unexpected and rare occurrence in the minting process. Another error that collectors watch for is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not aligned properly with the die during the minting process. As a result, the design elements appear off-center, leaving part of the coin blank or with a distorted image. Off-center strikes are very rare, and a 1964 penny with this error is highly coveted. The more extreme the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes. Other errors that may increase a 1964 penny's value include die cracks, clashing dies, and overstrikes, which all result in unique and one-of-a-kind coins. These errors can turn an ordinary 1964 penny into something that is worth far more than its original face value. In fact, some of these error coins have sold for jaw-dropping amounts at auctions. Now, let's get to the part that everyone is waiting for, the big reveal. You might be wondering just how valuable a 1964 penny with an error can really be. Well, let me tell you that some of the rarest 1964 pennies have fetched extraordinary prices at auction. Coins with double die errors, off-center strikes, and other minting imperfections have been known to sell for as much as $176,000. Yes, you heard that right, $176,000 for a single 1-cent coin. It's truly incredible when you think about it. A coin that was originally worth just 1 cent, produced by the US Mint, can end up being worth more than most people's homes or even entire life savings. This is the magic of numismatics, how a small mistake in the minting process can turn a coin into a rare and valuable treasure. So, what does this mean for collectors? If you happen to come across a 1964 penny, it's definitely worth inspecting it closely. Look for any signs of minting errors, as they could very well be worth far more than you'd expect. Remember, the key to the coin's value lies in its rarity, and the rarer the error, the higher the price it can command at auction. In conclusion, the 1964 1-cent coin is much more than just a simple piece of change. It's a piece of history, a symbol of the times, and for some lucky collectors, it's a valuable treasure that could change their lives forever. Whether it's a double die error, an off-center strike, or another unique flaw, the 1964 penny continues to fascinate collectors and investors alike, and some of these rare versions have fetched a remarkable $176,000 at auction. So, the next time you find a 1964 penny in your pocket, take a moment to appreciate its history and potential value. Who knows, you might just be holding a small fortune in your hands. The year 1987 was a significant year in American history. The world was grappling with political changes, economic shifts, and technological advances. For the United States, it was a year of leadership changes, challenges, and a continued path toward modernization. While all of these changes were unfolding, one small object, virtually unnoticed by the vast majority, continued to circulate throughout the nation: the 1-cent penny. For many, the penny was just another coin, small and not worth much in terms of value. Yet, within the simple 1-cent coin from 1987, there lies a fascinating story, a tale of historical significance, of design, of rarity, and of the surprising worth it can hold for the right collector. What many don't realize is that a coin with a face value of just 1 cent can hold a value far greater than its intended use. The story of the 1987 1-cent penny is about much more than its size or weight. This penny is not just a piece of currency, it represents an entire era in American coinage. Its value, in fact, can be as much as $158,000, depending on its condition and any unique qualities it might possess. The rare pennies with specific errors are highly prized by collectors and investors, leading to an incredible rise in their value. Before we delve into the specifics of the rare and valuable pennies, let's first look at the context and design of the 1987 penny. The U.S. penny has a long history, and by 1987, it had undergone numerous changes. The penny, or 1-cent coin, had been in circulation since 1793, but the design we recognize today was created in 1909. This design, by Victor David Brenner, features the image of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, front side, of the coin. Lincoln was chosen to be immortalized on the penny because of his significant role in American history, especially his leadership during the Civil War. The reverse side of the coin, however, underwent a change over the years. The original reverse featured a wreath, but in 1959, the design was changed to show the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., as a tribute to the 16th president's leadership and legacy. This change marked a pivotal moment in the coin's history, as it not only honored Lincoln's achievements but also added a sense of gravitas and symbolic strength to the penny. Fast forward to 1987, and the U.S. Mint was still producing these pennies with the Lincoln Memorial reverse. The 1987 1-cent coin followed the established design. However, while the design itself may have been familiar, what really set some 1987 pennies apart from the rest were the minting errors that occasionally occurred during the production process. It's these errors, small imperfections in the minting process, that would set certain 1987 pennies apart and elevate them to a level of exceptional rarity and value. Let's talk a bit about the minting process, because understanding how and why errors happen is key to grasping the allure of rare coins like the 1987 1-cent penny. The U.S. Mint, responsible for producing all of the nation's coins, operates with great precision. However, sometimes, despite the best efforts to create flawless coins, human or mechanical errors can occur. For instance, one of the most notable errors that can affect a penny like the 1987 version is a double die error. This occurs when the coin is struck more than once by the same die, leading to a design that's doubled or slightly offset. In the case of the 1987 penny, this can result in the letters, numbers, or even the image of Abraham Lincoln appearing twice, sometimes in a ghost-like fashion, creating a very unique and highly collectible coin. Another error that may occur is the off-center strike. This happens when the penny is not aligned correctly when it is struck by the press. The result is that part of the image, such as Lincoln's profile or the words E pluribus unum on the reverse, may be cut off or positioned awkwardly on the coin. These off-center coins are very rare, and a penny with this type of flaw is considered a treasure by collectors, often fetching far more than its face value. Additionally, there are other types of minting errors that can occur with the 1987 penny. Die cracks are a common occurrence, which are visible breaks in the coin's die that result in cracks showing up on the finished coin. Clash dies occur when two dies strike each other with no metal in between, transferring the design from one die onto the other and leaving an imprint on the coin that is not intended to be there. These types of errors can make a coin look completely different from a standard penny, and because of their rarity, they become highly desirable. So, why would a coin like the 1987 1-cent penny be worth so much? The key factor is rarity. Even though millions of 1987 pennies were minted, the errors are incredibly rare. Collectors spend years searching for these unique versions, and when one is discovered, it can spark fierce competition at auctions, with prices rising dramatically based on the degree of imperfection or error. For a penny to be valued at a remarkable price like $158,000, it needs to meet certain criteria. The penny needs to have been minted with a significant error that makes it stand out from the millions of standard pennies. The more extreme the error, whether it's a double die, an off-center strike, or another unique flaw, the more valuable the coin can become. Moreover, the condition of the coin is a major factor in its value. Coins that are in pristine condition, those that have minimal wear and tear, are much more valuable than coins that show signs of excessive damage or deterioration. In the case of the 1987 1-cent penny, it's the rare combination of minting errors and pristine condition that makes certain examples incredibly valuable. Collectors, especially those who specialize in error coins, know that finding a 1987 penny with a perfect double die or an off-center strike is like discovering a hidden gem, and they are willing to pay top dollar for these rare coins. So, when we talk about the value of a 1987 penny, it's important to keep in mind that the value isn't in the coin itself, but in the rarity of the minting error and the condition of the coin. When a coin like this hits an auction, there are often intense bidding wars among collectors, driving the price upwards. In some instances, rare and highly sought-after 1987 pennies have been known to fetch an extraordinary $158,000. Imagine that, $158,000 for a coin worth just 1 cent when it was first minted. It's a staggering amount, and it underscores just how much the world of coin collecting can alter the perceived value of something that might otherwise be overlooked. The rare errors, combined with the rich history of the 1987 1-cent coin, make it a truly exceptional piece of numismatic history. In conclusion, the 1987 1-cent penny is more than just pocket change, it's a piece of American history, a symbol of the fascinating world of coin collecting, and for those fortunate enough to come across one of these rare era coins, it's an opportunity to own a valuable piece of art and history that can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you happen to find a 1987 penny in your pocket or coin jar, it's worth taking a moment to examine it closely. You never know, it could be worth far more than you ever imagined. The year 1991 marked a significant point in American history, an era filled with economic transitions, political shifts, and changes in the world's social landscape. The United States was adjusting to a post-Cold War world, and the nation was making strides towards the digital age, though the internet was still in its infancy. At the same time, the U.S. Mint continued its regular coin production, including the 1-cent penny, which remained a staple of everyday American life. Though you might not think much of it today, the 1991 penny is far more than just pocket change. It's a coin that carries with it decades of history, art, and significance. From the very start, the penny has been a symbol of the country's economy, culture, and its ever-changing identity. But for the savvy coin collector, this particular coin, the 1991 1-cent penny, is much more than an ordinary piece of currency. In fact, it could very well be worth far more than the mere 1 cent stamped on its surface. Now, let's take a deeper dive into the history, design, and appeal of the 1991 penny, and see how a simple coin became a coveted item worth as much as $146,000. The penny has been in circulation in the United States since 1793, but the design that we recognize today, the Lincoln penny, was first introduced in 1909. This iconic image of President Abraham Lincoln was designed by artist Victor David Brenner, who wanted to create a dignified representation of one of the most important figures in American history. The portrait of Lincoln on the front of the coin was a groundbreaking choice, as it marked the first time a U.S. president had appeared on the coinage of the nation. However, by 1991, the penny had already undergone several changes. The most notable of these was the shift in the reverse design. The original reverse, designed by John R. Sinnock in 1909, depicted a simple wheat ear design. This design was replaced in 1959 by a depiction of the Lincoln Memorial, a fitting tribute to the great president. This was the version of the penny that graced the 1991 coin, and it reflected both the country's continuing reverence for Lincoln and the desire to keep his memory alive through the coinage that represented the nation. In 1991, the penny continued to carry the Lincoln Memorial reverse, as it had since 1959, but that wouldn't be the end of changes to come for the 1-cent piece. The penny, which had initially been minted from a copper and tin alloy, had been made primarily of copper in earlier years. By 1982, however, rising copper prices led to the mint making the penny from a copper-plated zinc material to reduce costs, and by 1991, the penny's composition remained 97.5% zinc, with only a thin copper plating on the outer surface. This shift in material was one of the many subtle changes in the long evolution of the penny, but it was also one of the reasons that certain versions of the coin, particularly those with errors, became so highly sought after. The design of the 1991 1-cent penny stayed true to the classic look that had been in place for over 50 years. On the obverse of the coin, we still see the image of Abraham Lincoln, with his thoughtful gaze and his prominent beard. The inscription, "In God We Trust," arcs above his head, while the words "Liberty" appear to the left and the date, 1991, is inscribed to the right of Lincoln's image. But it's the reverse side that deserves special attention. The reverse of the penny, which has remained unchanged since 1959, depicts the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. This grand and historic structure symbolizes the values that Lincoln fought for, and its portrayal on the penny adds a sense of reverence to the coin. The inscription, "United States of America," arches above the memorial, while the words, "E pluribus unum," are inscribed just below the structure. Finally, the denomination, 1 cent, is displayed at the bottom. While these designs are beautiful in their own right, they also make the penny a perfect canvas for showcasing the remarkable skill of the U.S. Mint's engravers. The intricate details, from the statue of Lincoln inside the memorial to the steps leading up to it, are a testament to the artistry and craftsmanship that went into each coin's design. To understand the appeal of the 1991 1-cent penny, we need to understand the minting process behind it. The U.S. Mint is responsible for producing the coins that circulate throughout the nation, and it operates with great precision. However, as in any large-scale production process, there are occasionally errors that occur during minting. The U.S. Mint used three main facilities for producing coins in 1991: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The vast majority of the 1991 pennies were minted in Philadelphia and Denver, with millions of pennies being produced for circulation. The minting process involved feeding blank discs of metal, called planchets, into a machine that would strike the image of Abraham Lincoln and the Lincoln Memorial onto the coin's surface. However, during this process, errors sometimes occurred, and it's these errors that hold significant value for collectors. For example, the 1991 penny is particularly prized for certain rare minting mistakes, such as double strikes, off-center strikes, die cracks, and other types of coin flaws that can make a seemingly ordinary penny extraordinary. To the average person, a penny might seem like a small and insignificant coin. After all, it's only worth 1 cent. But in the world of numismatics, even a single penny can be worth a fortune. For collectors, it's not just about the coin itself, it's about the rarity, the uniqueness, and the history behind each piece. In the case of the 1991 1-cent penny, there are certain versions of the coin that are far rarer than others. Collectors flock to auctions looking for coins with specific errors or unique characteristics, and when they find one, the bidding can be fierce. Coins with double die errors, where the design appears doubled, are particularly prized. A double die error occurs when a coin is struck more than once by the die, causing part of the design to overlap. This creates a visual anomaly that collectors love, as it's an unusual and unexpected flaw that only a small number of coins will ever possess. Another error that collectors look for is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not aligned properly with the die, causing part of the design to be missing or misaligned. These off-center coins are extremely rare, and the more off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin becomes. When it comes to the 1991 penny, error coins from this year have been known to sell for impressive sums. Some of the rarest 1991 pennies, with notable errors, have fetched as much as $146,000 at auction. This is an astronomical increase from the penny's original face value, and it speaks to the incredible demand for rare coins in the numismatic market. So, how do you know if you've got one of these rare, valuable pennies? It all comes down to closely inspecting the coin for any of the minting errors that we've discussed. If you have a 1991 penny with a unique flaw, it could be worth far more than its face value. Now, the moment you've been waiting for, the big reveal. You might be wondering just how much the 1991 1-cent penny can be worth. Well, it all depends on the rarity and condition of the coin. But here's the thing, some of the most sought-after 1991 pennies, especially those with minting errors like double strikes or off-center strikes, have sold for an astounding $146,000 at auction. That's right, $146,000 for a coin that was originally worth just 1 cent. So, the next time you dig through your pocket change or come across a 1991 penny in your spare change jar, take a moment to inspect it carefully. Who knows? You might be holding a rare, valuable coin worth a small fortune.